Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. This is February the 4th, 2018, and it's Super Bowl Sunday. I am so not plugged in that I only learned this morning that it was Super Bowl Sunday. So Philip Fracassi and Matthew Carpenter and Pete Rollick are not going to be here today, but that's okay.
Thank God. I wish it was Super Bowl Sunday every Sunday.
Oh, snap. They were ready for some football, but we weren't.
Yeah. Well, if everyone remembers JF Dubois, he's going to be on in a minute, too. He was a guest a month or two ago, something like that. He is also from Canada, by the way. Still lives there. Yes.
It's going to be a very polite podcast.
Guest panelist. I'm from Iowa. We're pretty polite.
That's Canada adjacent.
Yeah, it's American Canada, pretty much. Yeah. So
they had that on this deal. I'm pretty sure.
It's the state logo. So my guest today is Leeman Kessler.
Hello,
Leeman, say hi. Yeah. Let's do introductions. I'll have JF cut in when he pops in and introduce himself. But I'm Mike Davis, editor, publisher, all kinds of stuff, Lovecraft eZine guy. Kelly, introduce yourself.
Oh, I just assumed you were going to go right to, okay, that's it. Our guest is Leeman.
Nah, that joke's getting old. I'm going to have to think of a new insult.
That's right. Kelly Young, executive editor of Strange Eons. That's about it.
It is, isn't it? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're a man of mystery, so you gotta maintain that mystery.
Not much mystery. No, it's what you see is what you get.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
What are you drinking today, Kelly?
Oh, I am drinking a lovely red blend. I live in Washington State, which has just some amazing wineries that are probably going to be skyrocketing now with the unfortunate fires in Napa Valley. Ugh. But I am drinking a lovely bottle of red blend called The Devil You Know from Gorman Wineries. They also put out a Devil You Don't Know. I don't think it's as good. The Devil You Know is better than The Devil You Don't Know.
That's some intentional marketing right there.
Probably. They were like, well, we can't call this one The Devil You Know. And all of their wines have kind of a hell theme going on. They have a cab that's called Old Scratch and some other stuff. It's a really neat little tasting room too, in winery in Woodinville, where it's just covered with rock and roll memorabilia, guitars signed by everybody from Van Halen and everybody from AC/DC. It's my kind of place for sure.
Nice.
I was trying to think of a 666 related joke, but it just didn't come to me.
Sex.
Hey, JF. Introduce yourself, buddy.
I was muted. You told me to mute myself. Hi, I'm the filler.
Not when you're talking. Not when you're talking.
Oh no. Oh yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, like, I'm that girlfriend you call when you got stood up. I'm your ex.
You said yes, though. You said yes.
Yeah, I am definitely that girlfriend that will go to the movies with you on short notice because you got stood up. My name's JF Dubois. I'm a writer of horror and science fiction. I was on this show before, and I'm hoping that I'm not contradicting the intro I did back then.
Yeah, the name of the book that we talked about was
I Got in the Shed, which is my horror novel, which I think fits with this particular podcast a bit more than the one about robots.
Absolutely. It's quite Lovecraftian. I did enjoy A God in the Shed very much. So those of you listening who have not read it yet, pick it up. So our guest today is Leeman Kessler. Leeman, for those who don't know you, could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So I'm Leeman. I'm most known in these circles for depicting H.P. Lovecraft on stage and also on my regular web series, Ask Lovecraft. I've been portraying Lovecraft since about 2010. And it's been a strange journey, let me tell you. Along with that, I do some voice acting, some audiobook recording. I'm a member of the local village council, so I'm also a politician as well. So this can be,
What
dug up
village?
Gambier, Ohio.
Oh,
And yeah, so
Be careful, you'll this is going to be on the internet forever. So
I know. Well, in
Tread
this current climate, the worse I am, the better off my
that's
career is going to
true.
look. So
Very true. Very true.
good point.
Yes, you're Canadian though, and you moved to the United States somewhat recently, right?
well, sort of. I'm originally from. I'm American originally.
Oh,
And
I did
moved
not
up to
know that. I
Canada.
thought you were Canadian originally. Sorry.
No, no. I was well, born in West Africa to American parents, lived in America for a while, moved to Canada with my wife, was there for about 10 years and then came back here.
God, make up your mind.
But I know, right? But I was really sad. For a long time I was able to call myself Canada's foremost Lovecraft impersonator. And now I'm Ohio's foremost Lovecraft impersonator, and it doesn't
And only,
have
I would
the
say.
same. I haven't come across anyone yet, but it's it's a big state.
Are there other
Yeah.
Lovecraft impersonators? You can't just be America's foremost Lovecraft impersonator.
You
as
know
well?
what? The problem is that Jeffrey Combs is out there, and a lot of folks remember his fun movie Necronomicon, and I think for a lot of folks, he is still like America's Lovecraft. There's not a lot of us. There's only a handful of folks who have put on the flesh mask and danced around. I think I've probably logged in more hours than almost anyone else at this point. But no one's come gunning for me yet. I'm sure it's going to happen. There's always someone younger and faster waiting to pull off your Lovecraft face and wear it. So
With the more hours, couldn't you then claim to be America's foremost Lovecraft impersonator, whether you like it or not?
Ooh, there we go. See, it's all about marketing.
Happy to help. You can keep that one.
Who is Jeffrey Combs again?
Jeffrey Combs, he's the actor who is.
I'm kidding.
Oh, okay, all right.
He is so popular with Lovecraft. I'm not the biggest.
Oh,
fan.
right, because of Reanimator. This is my fake Lovecraft fandom. I haven't seen Reanimator, so I don't always immediately think of him. And that I think of him as Wei Yun from Deep Space Nine. Like that's how I knew him.
Oh, okay.
But From Beyond and You'll Forgive My Dog.
Yeah, you
it's
might
a hound.
close your door there if possible.
It's a Hound of Tyndalos. That's what I do on the show when he starts going off.
You're not a Super Bowl fan either, being Canadian. I would take it, JF.
I'm not a football fan in the sense that I don't necessarily follow. I will go to a Super Bowl party though, and usually randomly pick a team to cheer on and enjoy watching the game with a lot of snacks and fun people.
Yeah, that's
I did not do that this year. Like I don't have the energy to follow a whole season of football, but I don't hate watching a match. Like I'm the same way about hockey, which I think is sacrilegious for a Canadian to say. Like I'll go to a match and I'll enjoy it when I'm there, and I'll watch the playoffs if the Canadians make it, which they don't, so I don't. But like
you don't like hockey, man. You realize this is live. You may get your Canadian citizenship revoked.
Oh, I've got friends that get angry at me when I'm when I say that I don't follow hockey. I don't hate it. I don't have the time to follow it, and it's to be honest, hockey also in the past decade has, like, hockey from 10 years ago and hockey today is relatively different. Now, back then there was a lot more action, if you will, like a lot more passes, a lot more trick shots and things. Today it's really like you watch a game today, and I see them in bars when I go drink because I'm a writer. And it's a lot of people skating around in circles, and then once in a while there's like for half a second a bit of action, and then they skate around in circles. It's essentially NASCAR on ice. There's also a lot more people.
What are your thoughts on curling? That's where you can earn back your cred. What are your curling feelings?
Curling is interesting to watch, but not necessarily thrilling.
No
it is so much fun to play.
So back to Leeman. What made you start the impersonations and specifically Ask Lovecraft, your YouTube series?
Yeah. The thing that got it started was a friend of mine, Stephen Neer, wrote a play about Lovecraft and Sonia Green called Monstrous Invisible, and he asked me to perform in it, and I did 2 different versions of it. We actually took one version of it and did a stage reading at Necronomicon in 2015, and so that's really how I got into Lovecraft. And I think it was 2012, like late summer of 2012. I bought a little camera, like one of those old like flip cams, and was like, oh, I've always wanted to, do something for YouTube and, figure out something I could do. And a friend of mine, Derek Burrow, who did Derek the Mage, Chasing the Muse, kind of pop culture review shows, he brought me on, and I said, hey, I saw your Lovecraft impersonation, or saw you play Lovecraft. Would you be willing to do that for my web series? We're going to be reviewing From Beyond and Mouth of Madness and things like that. And I said, sure, that'd be fun. And so I kind of got back into playing the character again, and had this camera, had this character, and I thought, maybe I could put these 2 things together. And I'm a huge fan of the podcast, My Brother and Me, comedy advice show for the modern era. And so I thought I'll just rip off their shtick and do an advice show as H.P. Lovecraft. And being a genius, I said to myself, I'll do it 3 times a week. So
that's more work than it sounds.
That was 5.5 years ago and almost 900 episodes ago, but we're still going strong.
Holy moly, man. I didn't realize you had that many.
Yeah.
Well, I just special for the 1,000th episode. Have you thought about that?
It's so hard. It's so hard to measure it because I just marked my 500th episode with Channel Awesome, because I'm part of the Channel Awesome network. I joined up with them a few years back. And so that was kind of one of my big anniversary things. And I did a big 5-year anniversary spectacular last year, which was a lot of fun. I had people write me in short stories on the theme of the number 5, and I read aloud 5 of them, and they were fantastic. They were just so much fun. So I feel like the anniversaries are a lot more of a thing to celebrate. I also have to keep track of Lovecraft's birthday and his death day and mark those when they happen. Yeah. So it's been a strange ride, a fun ride. And one of the best parts about it is being able to travel and go to Necronomicon and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival, stay up late, drinking with Kelly, getting Mexican breakfast, first thing in the morning with you and Matthew. There's just, that's being part of this community, folding into this community in a really wonderful way. Because again, I didn't grow up a Lovecraft fan. I didn't have the kind of the standard story of I was 12 years old and visiting my uncle and I found this yellowed, dog-eared book in the back of his dresser. When I was a teenager, I was reading Pratchett and Gaiman and Agatha Christie, sort of weird things I found in my parents' house. And so I didn't come to Lovecraft until really late, until right around I started playing him. And so wasn't aware of the fandom, wasn't really aware of the community, and to be welcomed in so warmly. I mean, I remember within just a few months of starting, you had me on the eZine, had me on to perform as Lovecraft and get grilled by Pete Rawlick and Joe Pulver and Willem Pugmire. And that was a blast. And that really was kind of what launched the show. Before, I think prior to that, it was kind of me and my friends sort of tolerating my ridiculousness. But that really folded me into the Lovecraft fandom and Lovecraft community, and something I'm very grateful for.
Oh, I didn't know that. I appreciate you saying that. So, and you've been very successful. Now, how many questions do you get in, like say per week or per month? And I know you come up with questions on your own as well.
Yeah, so most of the questions, they don't gush in. If I do a request for questions, I'll get a lot, or like one person will send in like 30. It's really a handful. It's a handful, and I've got such a backlog at this point that I'm able to kind of go through and find. A lot of times people will ask a question as a comment on YouTube, and I have to make sure to find ways to save that, otherwise it'll get lost forever. But it's I have a good backlog of folks, and I started up kind of a fan page, the Ask Lovecraft Appreciation Society, and I get a lot of really nice questions from that. It's a nice sort of warm, strange group of folks who make I don't know. It's been very rewarding to see the kind of folks who are interested in the strangeness I do. You know, YouTube can be a very toxic place.
Oh yeah,
as I'm sure you are aware.
The comments can be. You have to really watch them.
Yeah,
that's one reason why I don't have comments on my.
Yeah, well, and as you know, the sort of the controversy that Lovecraft invites can create even more sort of headaches and a toxic environment. So, but I've been very lucky in that for whatever reason, either I'm a small enough fish that I don't attract the more rabid types. But I've maintained a really chill, really pleasant group of fans, and it's been a real pleasure. You know, it lets you feel good about what you're doing, and you know, knowing, okay, I'm not going to have to wake up and delete a lot of comments about eugenics.
You know, and I do get comments, obviously, on the Lovecraft eZine Facebook page.
Yeah,
and yeah, pretty much the same. I rarely have to delete a comment, even though there's an awful lot of people on there.
Yeah,
they're mostly nice comments.
Yeah,
you know. So
no, you've done a fantastic job of curating a community that's respectful, that's willing to engage and tackle some of the harder stuff, but not to become so consumed by it that there's no oxygen left for anything else. Right. And I think that's really key. You know, I mean, I think that, you know, the big joke in the Lovecraft circles is don't go into the HP Lovecraft Historical Society Facebook page because it's just a swamp. I mean, those guys do great work and they put out some wonderful stuff. But if you just go to their kind of wild West style comments,
yeah, it is the Wild West there.
It is. Yeah. It is seething. So I think community is really so important. You know, I have so much respect for Niels and the folks at Necronomicon. So much respect for the folks who put on the HP Lovecraft Film Festival, because it's hard and it's a difficult community. It's a strange community that self-selects for strangeness, and you know, I think it takes a lot to be able to curate and to nurture supportive communities. And I think that's so key for any kind of fandom, for any kind of passion or hobby. You've got to be able to make it a place that people want to come back to and be a part of.
An awful lot of people listen to the podcast only. That's my biggest audience. But we do have live people who watch the show live on YouTube right now. And well, here's a live question. What's the hardest HP question you've ever been asked?
The absolute hardest came very early. You know, my idea for the show was for it to be comedy, for it to be, you know, just like, oh, HP Lovecraft sort of saying nonsense things and making jokes about rats in the walls and stuff like that. And then very early on, I got a question from a young woman saying, "Dear HP Lovecraft, thank you so much for your work. You know, it really inspired me, you know, when I was a young girl. I understand that you died of cancer. Well, my boyfriend is dying of cancer. And what would you tell him about that experience?" And, you know, I had to kind of, well, you know, on one hand, you don't want to completely ignore an email like that and be like, I'm not going to get back to you. And secondly, you don't want to just make a joke of it because that's not good. You know, talking of squamous horrors, you know, you don't want to make light of that kind of situation. So I had to very much thread the needle and find a way to stay true to the character I've created. And you know, my version of Lovecraft is very much you know, more pastiche, homunculus than, you know, a direct, you know, one-to-one recreation. As I tell folks, you never want to go full Lovecraft.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be honest. I wanted to be honest to his empathy, to his humor. You know, if you only know Lovecraft through his stories, that's you get a very skewed perspective of him. And I think people do have a very skewed perspective of him. You know, they focus on his sort of misanthropy and this sort of isolated. You know, they see him as kind of a guy sort of hiding away in an attic, afraid of people. But if you read his letters, suddenly you find a man with an amazing sense of humor, an amazing amount of empathy. You find a lot of unsavory things in those letters as well that are the cause of a lot of conversation, but you find a real human, and that, you know, channeling that I think is important. And I feel like that's sort of part of, you know, my mission, right, is to in portraying Lovecraft and creating what is a slightly jokey version of Lovecraft, but ultimately I think an honest version I don't want to deviate so much from who he is. I don't want, to be like, I'm H.P. Lovecraft, and today we're going to be talking about why multiculturalism is the best. I'm not going to have him.
It's a very fine line. Yeah.
I'm not going to have him be like, now I'm going to tell you my thoughts on, the Hindustan continent. I don't want to make it completely unwatchable. But I do really want to highlight that humanity, that nuance, that, he's not a devil. He's not a saint. He's a person, and people are flawed. And sometimes they are heavily flawed. But they are still human, and there are things we can learn and take and laugh. And that's an important part of what I do. And so that particular question really kind of shook me up and woke me up to doing more than just kind of doing silly gags every few days.
Right. Now you do audiobooks as well.
Yep, I do audiobooks. That's sort of another line I got into through Lovecraft. The folks at Ghostwood Books approached me to work on Cthulhu Lives, which was a big anthology of Cthulhu Lives.
Right.
They actually first had me do the forward for it, and then when they were going to do an audiobook, they had me and another voice actor split up the books, and that was a lot of fun. And then you commissioned me to work on Scott Thomas's Sea of Vash, which was an absolute blast. That was a great story. It's a lot of fun when you're doing, when you're going to be spending a few hours reading aloud something, when it's something you get caught up in and enjoy as you're reading it.
Couple things on that. First of all, the author, Scott Thomas, was absolutely thrilled and blown away by, I don't know if you've talked to him.
Yes, I haven't spoken to him directly, but I've
and I was too. There are a lot of choices when it comes to audiobook, readers. But there's audiobook readers and then there's audiobook readers. It's amazing what you do. And it's amazing what you did on that particular, because you had to use several different voices throughout the novella. And it was amazing.
Yeah, that's
I'm
it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, finding voices that people are going to like, right? Because you can sort of be reading something and be like, okay, this guy sounds like this. And then the author hears it and is like, no, that's, way too old, way too weird, way too what have you. So you have to be flexible. And it's a big challenge is also being consistent, right? Sort of a character can look a certain way when you start a project, and you're just like, okay, well, this is how he feels in my voice. And then as you read, it kind of can change as you understand, oh, okay, he's had this go on, like, oh, and you listen to it at the end and listen to it at the beginning, like, oh, those don't sound correct at all. I could go re-edit.
Kelly, you've probably got something to say about this, because I sent it to you before we put it out, and you loved it.
God, I loved it so much. I mean, the story is amazing, but Leeman's reading, I listen to everything at work, and I listened to it all the way through. I sent you a text saying, this is the coolest thing I have ever read. And then I listened to it again. I just started at the beginning and listened to it again. I thought it was amazing. I thought, Leeman, you were fantastic.
Thank you so much.
It was by far the best audiobook I had ever heard.
Well, that's really gratifying. Thank you so much.
And then I think I sent you a message asking if you would just narrate everything in my life from now on.
Kelly had agreed to do the podcast, but he didn't know what he had gotten into.
Oh, fuck, it's true. It's true.
That is true, too.
The gorilla was in his closet waiting. No, it's a lot of fun doing audiobooks, because, I'm someone who's read a lot, and I'm also addicted to podcasts. And so the audio work it's very intimate. A book is intimate because you're in your own head and you're kind of, putting everything together. But audiobooks and podcasts and radio shows, they're intimate in a very different way. You're sort of inviting these people into your brain for a while, and it feels very special to be able to do that and to be a part of that experience and to blend those with books. It's just it's a wonderful opportunity.
Part of my audience is writers, Leeman. If someone wants to approach you about reading their book, creating an audiobook version of their book.
Yeah. What if a writer wanted, like, just heard you use your reader voice and was kind of impressed and wanted to get more information about that? Like,
yeah, how's
asking for a friend.
Contact you?
I would encourage anyone listening or on the call to go to to just email asklovecraft@gmail.com. I can talk with you about the specifics. I'm actually in the middle of working on a pretty big project. Unfortunately, my computer decided to start making horrible hard drive grinding noises, which are not conducive to recording long stretches of audio.
Nope.
So hopefully once I get that issue solved, I'll be able to kind of get more back into it. I also have a 4-month-old. So, if your story involves someone occasionally screaming, that'll be very helpful as well.
So asklovecraft@gmail.com. Okay,
That's
good.
right. And if you folks are interested in asking Lovecraft a question, you can contact him that way. I'll pass the question. I'll pass the questions on. He doesn't have his own email yet. He's still just doing letter writing.
Talk to us about George R.R. Martin.
So this was the absolute highlight of my year. I was really bummed because, not to have a kid, but because we were having a kid, it meant that I couldn't hit H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival or Necronomicon. And so I didn't really think I was going to get a chance to do a lot this year. But at the sort of start of the year, I got this weird Facebook message out of the blue from a rando. And I thought, this is the most targeted spam ever, because it said, George R. R. Martin is a big fan of your work and is interested in having you come perform for him. I'm like, oh, they're going to get my credit card number. Like, this is fantastic.
Right.
But no, it turned out that George R. R. Martin is in fact a watcher of the program. And he, a few years back, bought a kind of historic cinema space in Santa Fe, the Jean Cocteau Cinema, and refurbished it.
Zelazny was telling me about that. Yeah,
and it's a beautiful old building. It's just absolutely wonderful. And he does art house cinema screenings. They like will go back and do old scripts or old shows that he wrote for. They'll do presentations of that, and they do stage shows occasionally. I know they do like guys who play Dungeons and Dragons and record that live and do kind of podcasts of that. And so they asked me to come out and do my Lovecraft shtick, and we were able to make it work. And it was like a dream come true. I mean, I've been reading George R. R. Martin since I was in high school. I loved Tough Voyaging. I loved his short stories. I've been reading Game of Thrones since about 2002, and it was a really sort of career culminating moment. If it never gets better than that, that's fine. Like, that was just to be able to, like a jester, perform for George R. R. Martin in his own space, answer his questions about Call of Cthulhu. Man, this is a guy who has played a lot of Call of Cthulhu and can tell you some ridiculous stories from his gaming days, and
Really?
will, because as a gamer, he's got a lot of stories to tell. And so that and just getting to go out to Santa Fe was an absolute blessing.
Did we lose Mike?
Oh, that would be a shame. He's running the show.
Supposedly.
Okay, Kelly, it's your time to shine.
Oh, welcome to the Strange Eons podcast, everybody.
I think did I freeze there for a few minutes?
Shit.
Oh, yeah, the coup is over, everyone. You did. You froze for a bit. Kelly,
I don't know what the hell is up with this computer lately.
Kelly jumped into the breach.
Oh, did he? Oh, God.
Yep.
What did he say?
I got your back, brother.
He is the Strange Aeons podcast now.
How dare you, Leeman?
I'm narking on you. Thanks for complimenting my audiobook. Now let me narc on you.
Well,
anyway, Mike, you were going to say something.
Once you realize that wasn't spam, yeah, probably not, but it is a question. Once you realize that wasn't a spam email, that must have been made your whole day, week, month, year.
Yeah. No, when we were able to make it work and get out there, it was, because I kept going, this is not going to work. Something's going to happen. They're going to cancel on me. But no, the plane landed and I got to visit New Mexico and just walk around. And I was very lucky because some of my, some friends of mine were going to be in Santa Fe So I timed it so that they'd be able to come to the show. So I would at least have like a handful of people in the audience. I could have some ringers to throw some questions at me. But no, we actually had a good crowd come out for it, and it was an absolute treat.
Miskatonic Musings. That's a podcast that you're on, right?
Yeah. So Miskatonic Musings, if folks know Mallory O'Meara, who's involved pretty heavily with Necronomicon, she started this podcast a few years back with Charles Meyer and Sean Thompson. Sean Thompson, who's done a lot of writing, and it's a kind of a horror review show where they look at movies and games and stories. They have guests on. And they had me on a couple of times, but then Mallory got a new job out in California, and they were looking to have another host. And so starting either last year or the year before, how long have I been doing it? I can't remember now. A little while back, they brought me on as a full-time co-host, and that's been an absolute blast. That's been a ton of fun because like I said, I'm a huge podcast junkie, and I love being able to kind of get together with folks and talk nonsense for a while and yell about movies. I'll tell you this, when I became a dad, suddenly I noticed how much child endangerment is in horror. It seemed like every single thing we watched or read was like, and then the girl died. Thanks, guys. So that's been a lot of fun being on that show and working with Charles and Sean, who are they're just absolute delights. We just had our 200th episode, which feels like an absolute amazing milestone.
Oh wow, yeah, that's great.
And we did a experimental clip show, which was an interesting process.
What's an experimental clip show?
Well, it's like a clip show, only it wasn't. It was. You'll have to listen to fully understand the strangeness of it.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm a fan of the podcast.
There we go.
I thought the clip show was very funny. I actually just love how filthy the podcast can sometimes get.
Yep. That is not only the material reviewed, but the quality of the hosts.
And I think, Kelly, you're constantly trying to bring this podcast up to that level.
Or down to that level.
Down to that level.
It's all a matter of everything's relative.
Lateral change too.
Right. I just assumed you brought me on because of my wealth of knowledge of dick jokes. So
whatever you need to tell yourself to get through your night. You've written a few short stories as well, Leeman.
Yes, so that's, I don't really have a background as a writer. I never really thought of myself as a writer, but when you're in this world where there's just a lot of strange stories and you're surrounded by really cool authors, occasionally you get the bug. And so I've written a few things. One was with that same group, Ghostwood Books. They did Cthulhu Lies Dreaming. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in West Africa, so I hadn't really seen a lot of mythos stories set in Africa in a non sort of weird colonial way. So I thought I would try my hand at using some of the strangeness I grew up with and was inspired by and write a sort of a Yoruba mythos story. And then I've also done I did a story for Resonator. So stories inspired by From Beyond. I wrote a fun little story about a con artist, which is always fun. And then finally I did a very short little story, very much inspired by the SCP wiki horror sort of project. And that was for Weird Book number 32. I'll make sure there's no glare, that Douglas Draw puts out. So yeah, it's I think I'm much more comfortable doing acting and audiobook performing than I am writing. But again, it's such a welcoming community. It's such a warm community, and there's always so many projects going on that it was a real honor to be asked to participate in some of these projects. And yeah, it's just nice to have little writing credits under your name. Yeah,
it is. Tim and Salome at Ghostwood Books, they're really good people. They published Cthulhu Lies Dreaming. It's a great book. If you haven't picked it up, pick it up. I've got a story in there as well. So that may steer you away from it or steer you towards it as the case may be. So, but yes. And finally, you're mayor of your town, right?
Not yet. We're working on that. No, I am a village counselor. I got, just after the November elections, there was I think an increased political awareness. Oh, November elections, 2016. I'm about to say it's been over a year now. There's been kind of an increased political awareness. I've definitely become a lot more engaged. When I was in Canada, it was weird. I was like, I can't really get involved politically here because I can't vote here. And I was away from America, so it didn't feel like there was a whole lot I could really do beyond just, fill out my absentee voter ballot. But coming back, I found myself really activated. And then after the November 2016 elections, in a major way. So the local mayor could sense that interest and started finding committees to plot me on because that's part of what she needs to do is fill the gaps in local municipal governance. And it's been a real interesting experience. In some way, delving into weird fiction and horror prepares you for municipal politics.
Yeah, I'd say so. Are you still doing 3 Ask Lovecraft?
Yeah,
a week?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Yeah, I've the last time I took a full break was that first summer. Now, I'll film every now and then a backlog of stuff where I'll film a live show and break that up into chunks, so I am able to take time off. But no, I do. Yeah, for 5 years now, I have done consistently 3 episodes a week.
Nice.
And those are found. You can go to asklovecraft.com. That's kind of the main hub. That's the YouTube site.
That'll redirect to your YouTube.
Yeah, precisely.
Channel.
And but you also, if you're on Tumblr, it's ask-lovecraft there. If you're on Twitter, @asklovecraft, Facebook @asklovecraft, and then there's the as I said before, the Ask Lovecraft Appreciation Society, where you get all sorts of other fun, strange, more community based posts and the like.
Or just go to that Google search engine and type in Ask Lovecraft.
That's right. Happens. And you have to type in Ask Lovecraft. If you type in Leeman Kessler, unfortunately, my name got used in a very popular Dungeons and Dragons podcast, and so now that's what comes up when you look up Leeman Kessler. And it's very strange because I'll have college kids. I live in a college town. I'll have college kids come up to me and be like, Are you Leeman? Are you the Leeman Kessler from the Adventure Zone? And I'll be like, yes. How can I help you?
No, I thought you were the guy from Avengers.
Well, that's definitely what my face looks like.
Bill Coulson, right?
That's right. When the Ask Lovecraft well dries up, I'll be doing Ask Agent Coulson. So prepare for that shift. No, character. It's fun. Character work. I love. Doing Lovecraft is really rewarding, and I like doing Lovecraft, but I do it a lot. So I used to do other characters and be in plays and be in shows, and so I try to find opportunities to perform as other people. And I'm going to get a chance to do that in March. They do the Chautauqua series. I don't know if it's in every town, but there's a lot of places will do these kind of an evening with a historical figure. And I've done that as Lovecraft. I was going to do it as I was hoping to get a chance to do it as Paul Lynde, because I do a really I like doing Paul Lynde. But unfortunately, Paul Lynde is from this town. This is his hometown. So there's about 80 different dudes who do a Paul Lynde impression. And so I'm actually going to be doing Carl Sagan in March.
Oh, so I'm
going to be doing
I'm a fan of Carl Sagan. Let me tell you.
A full hours Carl Sagan talking about the cosmos.
Well, enough of that idiot Carl Sagan. Can we get a little bit of Paul Lynde right now?
Well, you can get a little bit of Paul Lynde, but if you're extra special, you're going to get a whole lot of Paul Lynde, Kelly.
Love it.
I have to get a little bit of Sagan. I'm a huge Sagan fan.
Well, Sagan, of course, is always prepared to discuss the minutiae of the cosmos, from everything from interstellar nebulae to the greatest strains of marijuana.
That is awesome.
Perfect.
I think that's a great note to finish up on, because I know you got a babysitter. And you have to
thank you so much for having me back on. This, I think it's a really amazing thing you've done managing to keep this up. Again, I think that maintaining of community is so important. And this is a stellar example of it. And so thank you again. Thank you for helping me get my start, helping me throughout over the years. And thank you for having me on tonight. This was a blast.
Oh, thank you for being here. Good to see you, bud.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
See you guys. Bye.
All right.
Nice meeting you.
Very nice meeting you.
Oh man,
Rick.
that yeah, hey Rick. Came in late, but he's here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we can't hear you though. You need to adjust. Adjust something.
Very quiet.
Yeah. Oh man, that Carl Sagan Leeman
It
did
was-
was awesome.
The Carl Sagan was just caricatural enough to be funny. It was
Yes.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what do we have to talk about?
I don't know. I'm in your house. You invited me.
I'll say
thought
this.
I thought you would take over.
You want me to? Okay, I will, Mike. I mean, I'm on 3 podcasts. I can take over. You won't like it. That is my promise to you, but I can.
Let me just mention, we
Yes.
talked a little bit about the HPLS page and how it's kind of the wild, wild west. Just this weekend, I think they enacted a new rule that all posts have to be approved by the moderators now. So if you've been afraid to go into their page, you are now allowed to.
Boy, that's a lot of posts to approve.
Yeah, but it
Seriously.
had to happen because just like you were saying, it has just become
Yeah.
the black seas of infinity in there.
Yeah, and you know the thing is, I see what you did there. What you did there.
Like that.
The thing is, it's so separate from what they do in a way because, and number one, they're such great guys, but they put out such great products. You know, the movies, the audiobooks,
Mhm.
the audio dramas. You know, and a shitload of other stuff.
Yeah.
So
Kelly, did you get to listen to Rats in the Wall yet?
No, I still haven't listened to that. Thank you for reminding me. I just need to order that.
yep,
Yeah.
Rick is with us now. So hey, Rick.
Yeah,
Hey, Rick.
Hi. That was very well done. And it's
Well, I can't wait.
somewhat remarkable how they kind of had like a drinking party of everybody in the estate to get all this esoteric information into the script.
So it's not delivered as some kind of info dump. You're getting it as people discussing.
Yeah, you know, I had some weird relatives, you know, this one got killed on a wedding night, you know, stuff like that. They're all joking about all these weird legends.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. That's long been my favorite Lovecraft story.
Someone on the live comments mentioned Altered Carbon, which was on my list to talk about anyway. I've not seen it yet, but you've seen some of it, right, Kelly?
I've only seen that first episode, which I liked a lot of it. There were some parts like the acting that didn't thrill me, and I'm not even sure if the show was good or if it was just ticking off things that I like about dystopian sci-fi so perfectly that I was fooled into thinking it was good.
So if you
But
were
I'm
to
gonna-
give it a rating out of 5 boobs, how many boobs would you give it?
I would give it 5 boobs for sure.
'Cause
There's an awful lot of boobs in it.
that's what I've been told.
Where in the hell did that go?
it's-
Oh, that's where that came from. Okay.
Yeah, it's a graphic show, and I have not read the books that they're based on, and I don't know if the books are very similar to the film of Blade Runner, but this television series is very similar so far to the film of Blade Runner.
I've only read the book, and I've read the first book. I haven't seen the series yet. I have a vested interest in seeing this series do well. So everybody, go watch it. But when I read the book the first time, I did not so much enjoy it because I kept thinking to myself, this would make a better TV series than it does a book.
Right.
However, do I feel that it was Blade Runner-y? I feel it's a bit too, at least in the book, like it's a bit too action oriented to feel like it's Blade Runner. Like it's not a very significantly introspective book as far as sci-fi is concerned.
I should clarify that it looks like Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah, like the
there-
aesthetics of it.
Yeah, there are a lot of shots above busy city streets that are raining. Everything is neon. There
I
are
love
a lot
that.
of
I love that though.
yeah. It's if you like those exterior city shots from Blade Runner, these look like they're lifted directly from the film.
Would you say that's more Blade Runner or more film noir?
Mm,
Well, In that case, and what we're talking about, there's no real difference, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those scenes in Blade Runner are definitely film noir.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that's the coolest about Blade Runner is how it's sort of a, sci-fi film noir.
Or future noir.
Yeah, definitely. Speculative sci-fi, whatever. We know what we're talking about, I think.
Sure, it doesn't matter if we get it across to anybody.
It's true.
Anyway,
well, speaking of-
I'll
Yeah, go
definitely
ahead.
keep
Sorry.
I'll definitely keep watching this, and I recommend to sci-fi fans that they at least give it a shot because it sure looks cool. There is a scene, there is an Edgar Allan Poe scene in the middle of this that is just
Okay.
lovely and hilarious.
Oh, you convinced me now, along with the exterior rainy streets and so forth.
Well, get back to me and tell me what you think.
Get back to me. Get right back to me.
Right.
Speaking of Philip K. Dick, has anyone seen Electric Dreams? I've seen one episode and I've enjoyed it so far. It's on Amazon Prime, I believe.
Yeah, I gave it a second shot because you liked it so much, and
I didn't say I liked it so much. I said I liked that episode that I watched.
I gave that
can't.
episode that you watched a second try because you liked that episode so much. And here's what I thought of that.
Well, as everyone knows, you don't know what you're talking about. So
Yeah, I don't know. I got 3 words for you: Z, Z, and Z. I
okay.
thought it was a snore
So
fest.
you didn't like it? Is that what you're saying?
Did nothing for me.
All right. Well, I'll be watching Altered Carbon. I'm gonna watch more of Electric Dreams. Rick, I wanted to ask you. You've seen it recently, and what you thought.
I was incredibly impressed by it. I just thought the children actors were fine. I loved the girl in it. And I think it did a good job of balancing all the characters. It's been a while since I read the book because I'm kind of trying to remember, scenes and saying, was that in the book? Like killing me remember. The teenager who the clown uses as sort of a reluctant henchman. Was that in the early scenes? I know later on, and when they're adults, there's a guy like that.
Yeah, that's in the early scenes, but there's they've changed his part a little bit and made him kind of a lesser character. I know the movie is just out on DVD now. Finally, we really need to do a spoiler heavy podcast on this, maybe a Patreon podcast, because I'm not sure if you've seen the movie, and even if you haven't, you know that they're splitting it into 2 parts. One part is the children's story, the next part is the adult story. But in the book, it is not written that way. Everything is intertwined, and it all comes to a head. And the reason they do, or the reason King does that, is because the adult story is so similar to the kid's story. So it all starts mirroring each other, and then they come to a head and they take care of Pennywise. And with the film, that's not how it's done. We don't see the adults because they haven't been cast yet at all. And I'm really hoping that the adult story, the sequel film, is not just going to be a rehash of this first film. But I don't see how it can't be unless they go completely off script.
Well, in the early '90s movie, I think it was, of It, they did intertwine the plot.
Yeah, I know that movie sucked, though.
Yeah, I figured you were going to say that.
Well, the issue is it's hard to make it a 2-part 4-hour movie with 2 concurrent storylines wouldn't have worked.
I think it would have worked just fine.
Now you get first, you watch part 1 and you go, oh, I gotta wait. It's ending on a cliffhanger. So you get a natural break. And you don't, the first half can stand by itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's from a marketing point of view the way you wanted to go.
From a marketing point of view, I agree completely.
What do you guys think of Jeff? Have you seen this? The Alienist?
I
you
have
seen the
not.
book?
It's on my. Listen, right now I'm supposed to be doing edits for something that's supposed to have been delivered 4 days ago. So I'm
Damn
not
it! Stop
watching
working and
things.
entertain yourself.
I am so entertained by my work. So no, I'm behind on a lot of things. So I'm listening to you guys and sort of managing my priority list depending on how excited you are about a series that you're talking about, moving it
All right.
either up or down. So
All right. Well, then now
keep at
Kelly
it.
can tell you what he thinks of the Alienist. And I'll tell you what
Go.
I think too.
Oh boy. Well, okay, so I should preface this with that was probably my favorite novel after I read it. So in the early 90s,
We should
up
also
until I
speak for Matt Carpenter and say that, since he's not here, and say that he absolutely detests that book.
Right. And his reason being no aliens in it. So spoiler, there are no aliens in The Alienist.
What?
What?
Does Matt's objection have to do with the medical aspects?
No, he just said it was
No,
boring.
he doesn't like the book. He said it was. Yeah, it's exactly what he said. It was boring.
And I have to admit, after that first episode, I started wondering, did I just misremember this book? Because that first episode was pretty boring. The acting was really weak, especially by the main protagonist, Laszlo Chrysler, who, when the movie was when the book was first optioned for a movie in the 90s, Anthony Hopkins was supposed to play Laszlo Chrysler. And I remember
work.
thinking, wow, holy cow, they have nailed this casting. And then, of course, like almost everything does, it didn't get made. And this new guy is the guy who was the German sniper hero from Inglourious Bastards.
Daniel Brun.
Yes, he's not as strong an actor in the first episode. In the second episode, I have to admit, it feels very much like somebody told him, hey, let's toughen up a bit and make this a guy who believes the words he's saying. So I loved the second episode as much as I disliked the first. And I'm hopeful that it's just going to get better and better.
I keep hearing a cat.
I think that's JF.
Because I just came back from a 6-hour drive from Toronto and walked through the door and connected to be on this glorious podcast, and the cat is super pissed that I was gone for the weekend. So
I was gonna
apologize.
What are you doing to that poor cat? Jeez.
No cat torture on the program, please.
As we were talking Edgar Allan Poe, I said, did you wall it up in the...
It's not even like it was locked up anywhere. It has plenty of food. It's just annoying.
It has. I don't feel like you're a cat lover.
Listen, I respect its privacy. So, I mean, what you want me to just like color my little snoochie boochie right here on the podcast? I mean, I will.
That.
I have absolutely no shame. I'm trying to keep some level of decorum.
You're at the wrong place for that.
Yeah, you really are. What else do we have to talk about? Batman Gotham by Gaslight. I have not seen it yet because it's in that stage of where you can only buy it on video. You can't rent it, so I'm waiting till I can rent it because I don't want to spend $20. But you've seen it, right, Kelly? What did you think of Gotham by Gaslight?
I liked it a lot. Like I said, I wish that DC would stop trying to make their interconnected movies and maybe just do these one-shot Elseworld stories or something like that. Make something of a name for themselves, doing something different than trying to copy what Marvel has done.
I don't dislike that idea now that I've given it some thought. Live action Gotham by Gaslight, a live action. You told me the other day it suggested Superman Red Sun.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
The way they're set up now,
in the continuity, yeah.
Yeah, the way they're set up now, they can't do anything like that because it would make no sense. But I think that would be the way for them to go if they wanted to actually trailblaze a little bit.
Here's the other thing about that. You're not stuck with an actor.
Right.
You know, if you're paying an actor, if he's just making too much money, whatever, I don't know how it works. The next Batman can be somebody completely different.
Right.
So, I really like that idea.
Rick, did you happen to catch that one?
No, not yet.
Okay. I think you'll like it. I mean,
I know
it
it's
takes
Jack the Ripper versus
it takes
a-
Batman, drops him into a Victorian setting, and it's
Batman.
a lot of fun.
And I'm a sucker for Jack the Ripper stories.
I know this about you.
And I'm a sucker for Batman stories.
I'm just a sucker.
Black Lightning, you didn't like it.
No.
All right. I will not watch it then.
I didn't like it.
I'm
Why?
curious what's wrong with it.
Well, part of it is me. Is I went from Luke Cage, which I thought was the strongest of the Marvel shows on Netflix, and I guess I was hoping that DC saw that and said, "Oh my God, we got to do something like that. We've got a black superhero," and they kind of tried to do it, but I don't think they pulled it off very well. And on top of it all, the character's costume has neon in it, and it bothers me
It's unforgivable.
in a way that only Joel Schumacher can bother me.
Someone on the live comment says, "I'm glad you guys aren't watching football and doing this podcast instead." So thank you.
I'll tell you, I normally watch the Super Bowl.
We're glad
I just
to.
had no interest in watching the Patriots win another Super Bowl.
John Langan was on the show last week, and he mentioned a book by Steve Rasnick Tim. I really hope I'm pronouncing Steve's name correctly. Steve Rasnick Tim, called Ubo, UBO. So I figured John Langan likes it. It's got to be great. And I started reading it on my Kindle. Where you can decide if you like the book thing, and then you can click the buy button if you like it. And damn, I'm gonna have to click the buy button, because that is one fucked up story, and I mean that in a good way. It is different. If you're looking for something really different and very, very, very good to read, you should pick it up. Have any of you guys checked it out yet?
I've heard only good stuff about it. Justin Steele was telling me that was his favorite book of the year.
Yeah. Let me just read a little bit off of Amazon of what the book's about. Danielle is Danielle. My wife's name is Danielle. Daniel is trapped in Ubo. He has no idea how long he's been imprisoned there by the roaches. Every resident has a similar memory of the journey. Basically, he talks about creatures dropping them into this place. Now, every day they force Daniel to play a different figure from humanity's violent history, from a frenzied Jack the Ripper to a stumbling and confused Stalin to a self-proclaimed god executing survivors atop the ruins of the world. It's just really, I mean that as a compliment, and what I've read so far, I really enjoyed it. So everybody listening to this should pick it up. Just UBO, Ubo by Steve Rasnick Tim. It's available on Kindle and in paperback, it looks like. So Steely J liked it, huh?
Yeah. We're putting together the Charles Dexter Awards for the next issue of Strange Eons, and so everyone has been polled.
No, I didn't know that, actually.
Oh, yes. So there'll be awards going out to best novel, best collection, best podcast. Unfortunately, I'm on this one, so we're ruled out.
No, we can.
Even though
it's
we
fine.
know
We can.
this is the best podcast.
That.
Best, TV series, best movie, that kind of stuff, and everyone gets polled on what their favorite of the year was, and Steely J definitely loved Tim's book.
Okay. Well, speaking of podcasts, you're on another podcast now that's not out yet, but you're recording it.
Yeah, I am doing a podcast called Dead Again with Eric Morgret, who is my longtime life partner, as it were, lover and business partner.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have today.
And it's called Dead Again, and we take a classic horror film, and then we compare and contrast it with its remake.
Called Dead Again?
Called Dead Again, yeah.
That was a good movie.
That movie was pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you just talked about Amityville horror. Do you want to get more out more anger out of your system now? More vitriol
I made
about
the mistake
Amityville?
maybe of letting you know how much I disliked this movie. And I was so angry at Eric because we switch off and decide, the last person decides what the next movie is going to be. So we switch off and he picked the Amityville Horror. And I thought, all right, I haven't seen this since I was 10 and it was in the theaters. And I remember being very scared. So this should be interesting. And I watched it. And this fucking turd just made me so angry. It's the worst movie in the world. It's got a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Worst movie in the world. Okay.
So, all you assholes who are saying this is a classic horror film, fight me because I'm angry and I'm ready to go right now. The one good thing, well, two good things. It has an amazing soundtrack. And James Brolin, who is maybe the handsomest man of the 1970s, if you've ever seen Capricorn 1 or Westworld, they managed to make him look terrifying in this film. So the makeup is fairly decent. But other than that, it's just a turd of a film.
So you didn't like it?
No, the worst part was that I thought there's no possible way I won't like the remake better than this. And about 15 minutes into the remake, I was still thinking that. The remake has Ryan Reynolds in an early role and Melissa George, and it tells the DeFeo murders a little better in the beginning. And then it just turns into an even worse shit show. So this particular episode, the Amityville Horror, if you guys just want to hear me complain and call Eric an asshole repeatedly, that's the episode you want to check in on. We also
complaining is why we're on the show. Why you're on the show.
So far, the podcast hasn't been released yet. So far, we've recorded several episodes. So we've done a Halloween episode, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Fright Night, Amityville Horror, and then The Evil Dead.
How was the excuse me? How was the remake of Fright Night? I never saw that.
I enjoyed it
I
very
thought that was
much.
actually kind of fun. Yeah.
It was a very fun one, and I liked the way that they updated it. They moved it to Las Vegas and kind of made sense of the idea that a lot of people black out their windows in Vegas and don't come out during the day because they all have jobs at night. And I thought it made sense as a perfect place to hide if you're a vampire.
So how do you like this? Here's a new article on the Guardian, and the headline is "No time for novels. Should we ditch fiction in times of crisis?" And then under that, when our daily news is apocalyptic, it's irresponsible. I can't believe I'm reading this. This is not a joke. It's irresponsible to read made-up stories. It's time to start reading the serious stuff instead.
God, you pissed off, JF.
I did. Yeah. That was it. He's done.
I was about to turn to him and say, I have spoken way too much on this episode, and so I was going to throw it to JF, and then he was like, fuck you guys, I'm out of here.
I think his computer said that instead.
Oh, maybe his cat got angry.
No, it's not on the computer. It's the internet. I blame the internet. Stupid. It's you guys repeal net neutrality. I blame you.
All right, JF, quick, answer the question.
Please ask it.
Oh,
What
next?
question?
I feel like I'm being trolled. No, seriously, there was a question? Because I obviously cut out for a while there.
You want to? It was an editorial that we live in too serious a time, and we can't make up stories anymore. We must drown ourselves in reality.
Yeah, I'm not going to read this stupid article. That's pretty much what it's about.
How bad can I swear on this show?
You feel free.
That's horseshit.
No.
Yeah.
That's it's clickbaity horseshit. You see, I mean, you guys do some writing, and you know writers and all that. Like, we see these kind of articles pop out all the time where someone wants to attract a lot of attention by saying some kind of absolute thing, like, oh, never do these things in your book, and oh, these kinds of stories are dead and will never be seen again. It's like every single one of these things is a lie.
I can't believe she actually believes this, though. That's the thing.
She probably doesn't. It's just
I
you
was-
want to write something that's going to attract attention.
Yeah, I
Or
agree.
in other words, make everybody hate you. It's
Yeah, and there's a lot. I haven't read this particular article, but there's a lot of article that will start like by saying like 5 reasons why fantasy is dead, and then like one of the first things they say is like fantasy is not really dead, but we'd like to see these 5 things be toned down a bit. Like it's really just about trying to get people mad enough about you that they'll tweet about you, and then you get a billion hits, and then your editor thinks you're awesome. But at the end of the day, no, where people are still going to make stories. They're still going to reinterpret stories. Like everything that we've seen for the past 100 years, as far as storyteller is concerned, is going to keep going on, including how storytelling is improving all the time. So whatevs. You know.
yeah. I think that sums this up perfectly. Whatevs. Jesus Christ.
I don't even have the energy to say the entire whatever.
I have started grading people on who I would like to sit next to at a party, and this person is not going to make my list.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So there's that. I saw, thanks to Benjamin Handelman, I saw the Man from Earth sequel, The Man from Earth Holocene.
And
Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Kelly?
no,
I really, really wanted to like it because The Man from Earth is pretty much my favorite movie. If someone, it's hard to say you have a favorite movie because, there's so many great movies out there. But if I had to pick a favorite, it would be The Man from Earth. And I can't say too much without revealing the plot, but it didn't capture the spirit of the first movie at all, in my view. So,
is it a hard pass or give it a try and see if I feel differently?
no, I'd say give it a try. I'd like to see them make another movie and see if they get it right. I hate to say things like get it right because, opinions are subjective. I certainly wouldn't say give it a hard pass, like Amityville.
I don't know.
It's just what?
I was going to say, I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, but did you guys hear the positive news about Mike Flanagan?
What was it?
He is directing the sequel to The Shining.
Right, Dr.
Oh,
Sleep.
yeah. Yeah, we heard that.
Well,
That's
he
great.
did a really good job with Gerald's Game and seems to have the favor of the people who want to make Stephen King movies. So, by all means.
Interesting choice, though. I don't think that's a very strong book. So,
The Shining?
The sequel to The Shining?
Dr. Sleep. Yeah, I didn't think that was
Dr.
a very strong
Sleep.
book.
Dr.
No,
Sleep,
The Shining is my favorite novel of all time.
Oh,
From a production side, I think like the choice of doing Dr. Sleep is very much because right now a lot of people are kind of excited to see some old Stephen King being remade. I mean, we got The Dark Tower for what that was worth, but
yeah, it was awesome.
We also got It. So the idea of going to basically do the sequel of one of the most beloved King adaptation to cinema is, I mean, if you're going to choose something, it's not a bad one. What are you going to do? Like Tommyknockers?
And it's been done anyway, so very badly.
it's also, if you look at in terms of its relationship to The Shining, it's pretty much a standalone story almost. The only real connection is you had a kid with psychic powers. He's now grown up and he's going to fight something different.
Yeah, I agree. I just didn't think it was a very good book.
Well, maybe they'll make a better movie out of the book. I mean, because when you think about it, Gerald's Game, like I saw Mike Flanagan give a panel on adapting literature to movies and TV series, I think at StokerCon last year. And one of the things that he was talking about regarding his work with Gerald's Game is that it was sort of regarded as unfilmable because of how it's structured and how it's very single location. And and he was very proud of the fact that he did manage to, like, he thought that, like, he and his team managed to do a good job of adapting an unadaptable book. I think that his approach and his point of view towards the way he adapts books to movies isn't just trying to translate it as is, but trying to I don't want to say reinterpret it, but really just translate it from the language of the written page to the language of cinema. And in that sense, maybe it'll turn out to be better that way. Fingers crossed.
He is a very good
filmmaker. I'm an optimist.
He is a very good filmmaker. So yeah, there's a really good chance of that happening, I would say. And one of my favorite movies is Absentia, which is either his first movie or one of his first movies. It's quite Lovecraftian. Now, speaking of Gerald's Game, all that said, what a great director he is. All that said, me and Philip Fracassi and Kelly did an absolutely hilarious Patreon podcast on Gerald's Game. So if you're not a Patreon, support the eZine projects and you get to listen to that too. And a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was fun. So what we thought, you have to listen to the podcast. So Matt, Rick, what did you think of Odd Thomas?
I like that a lot. Is that like a young adult series?
No, it's not.
Was that an original story that was made into a movie?
Yeah, it's the first of a series, first book in a series.
For those who haven't seen the movie, it's about a teenager who it's a little like what's the movie was the kid who can see dead people? Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense.
Well, let me jump in and say I think the kid is about 21.
Yeah.
I think that's the late Anton Yelchin, isn't it?
It is, and what a loss that is, and what a great actor he was.
Yeah, he was great.
And he can see the sort of Lovecraftian creatures which only pop up when there's going to be some horrible loss of life.
Right.
And he's trying to prevent a massacre. And I thought it was incredibly suspenseful. I thought it had a fantastic twist at the end, which I didn't see coming. And overall, I liked it.
If you've read the books, I have to say that Anton Yelchin, am I saying his name right? Was a great choice to play Odd Thomas. It would be very easy to get that wrong, and they got it right. So it's too bad we won't see any more Odd Thomas movies from him.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cute. Very sad ending. Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, life goes on.
Also,
except for the people who died.
I meant to the film, it was a sad ending. It was also a sad ending to Anton Yelchin's life, but that film had a surprisingly sad ending.
That was a very sad ending.
In fact, I didn't see it coming. I thought, what a great upbeat ending.
Are you torturing that cat?
It's not even in the same room. I only torture cats in literature.
I feel like Jeff sitting in a rocking chair and it just keeps rocking on that cat's tail.
Yeah.
It sounds terrible. I would never do that.
Supernatural. You're almost up to date on that, Kelly, right?
Yeah, I watch it. It's that. Let me preface it. I understand this is a show for young girls, but I enjoy it.
But you watch it.
So target audience reached.
I'm Team Dean, so.
Amazing.
Well, good for you. I did not know that about you, and it's really brave and honest of you to say that on the show. So, um, with all the baddies that they've come up with, all the bad guys that they've come up with in 13 years, they've never really done anything Lovecraftian. And I don't know why, because it would be great to see at least something close to Lovecraftian. I thought they were going to do it with the Darkness, a couple of seasons ago, but that ended up being, God's sister and all that stuff.
Right.
So, but now, and if you haven't seen this season, this is very mild spoilers. Okay, you can feel free to tune me out if you haven't seen this season, but these are very mild spoilers. Now they're getting into parallel universes, parallel realities, other dimensions, whatever you want to call them. And in a couple of episodes ago, Kelly, if you remember, the brothers get trapped in this dimension where there's these huge monsters.
Yeah.
At least one of them, and they barely get out of there in time. It's like, I don't know, 100 stories tall or something coming after them.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Here's my serious question and I can't believe I'm saying this with straight face, for Supernatural. Is there a Chuck for each universe? Because there's an angel for each universe. In other words, there was a Lucifer in this one parallel universe. There's another Michael in this parallel universe. The archangels.
Right.
Did Chuck create all these different realities, or did he just create the one reality and there's a Chuck, God, aka God, for each dimension?
I was wondering if you could clarify that Chuck was God, because people listening to this who don't watch the show have got to be going, "What? Chuck?"
Yeah, Chuck is God. He likes to go by the name Chuck.
Right.
So
I don't know. That's an interesting question. It always is interesting to me that they have gone such a strictly Catholic religious direction with this show. With God and the archangels, with the spells that they perform, the exorcisms, and all of that stuff. They are definitely following a certain religious bent, and that has always struck me as a little odd. But I also know that the show was written, by that original series creator to last 5 seasons, and at the end of the 5 seasons, he basically said, "See you later. This was the story I wanted to tell." And what are they on now? Is this season 11 or 12?
13.
13. Good Lord. I mean,
if they had ended at the end of season 5, that is a perfect ending.
that's the story he wanted to tell. Yeah.
Yeah. And that final scene with Sam looking in on Dean and Dean's new family,
Mm-hmm.
That was the end. That was it. I'm not sorry they went on, but it would have been a beautiful end if they'd have stopped there.
I feel good for the 2 actors who are set for life, I hope, after all this time.
Yeah, well, how can they not be?
Didn't they have a Lovecraft episode?
Yeah.
They had an episode. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that, where H.P. Lovecraft was in it, but it wasn't. I remember at the time a lot of comments on Facebook. It basically pissed off Lovecraftians because it didn't portray H.P. Lovecraft the way they thought he should be portrayed, and so on and so forth. I could take it or leave it, but it wasn't a cosmic horror episode, is what I mean.
How were the Leviathans portrayed? Because that was sort of a homage to Dark Shadows. Were they Lovecraftian creatures, or were they?
No.
They were just big monsters. They were just super bads.
Right. More of the weird angels and devils sort of theology.
Yeah.
Now, again, here's a spoiler if you're not caught up on like season 12 and 13, but you've been warned. But at the end of season 12, Castiel is killed, their angel friend, and it's pretty much shown on the show, when an angel is killed, there's no way back. The angel doesn't go to heaven, like a human does. Well, what's interesting is, Kelly, do you remember that the kid Jack wakes up Castiel in the big empty, or whatever it's called, whatever they call it, and Castiel's wandering around in this darkness, not understanding where he's at, and this cosmic entity comes up to him basically and forms itself into the shape of Castiel. And Castiel asked him why he did that. He said, because if you saw my true form, you'd go insane.
That's
He
right.
said,
I remember that.
I'm just your everyday cosmic entity. He said, just like that. So
Yeah.
they've come close to Lovecraftian with that.
I'll be honest. I think that Lovecraftian stories and the name H.P. Lovecraft is a big no-no in Hollywood right now. I think that
Really?
everybody has one. I think that everyone has pitched one, and I think that studios make a joke about it now. In fact, I know that studios make a joke about it now because I happen to know that everybody has a Lovecraft adaptation or a Lovecraftian story that they have tried to pitch.
Is that because of the controversy over the award, or is it just
No, I don't think Hollywood is deep enough to even care about that stuff. It's that there have been movies that have toyed with it and they haven't been hits. So, and especially in a industry where now everything that is coming out is made by Disney and it's got a strict format, then Lovecraftian stories don't have a place in that. If we see anything that has Lovecraft's name on it, I guarantee you it will be molded like silly putty into something that resembles a Marvel movie.
Well, when I say Lovecraftian, when I say I want to see them do Lovecraftian, I don't care about a Lovecraftian story. I should be saying I want to see cosmic horror, because that's the thing that they've not really done.
I think there is a certain fear from Hollywood studios in general in how to translate cosmic horror in a way that would feel compelling to a standard audience. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a hate for Lovecraftian material and cosmic horror in general. It's just that cosmic horror, by its sort of nature, the whole idea of these vast, indescribable horrors, is difficult. Like good Lovecraftian horror kind of relies on the imagination of the reader to fill in some blanks with whatever they feel is their own existential problems. And that's something that's kind of hard to do in a visual medium, because you have to show the cosmic horror. You have to depict that thing that's not supposed to be depicted. And I think that's where they kind of stumble, and they're getting very gun shy about trying to paint that precise portrait of something that's supposed to remain kind of out of focus.
Yeah, that makes sense too. But it's just, and I said this about another show to Kelly. It's a silly show that I enjoy watching. So.
Yeah, me too. I love it. I love that there is horror on television. I love that there's silly horror, and I love that there's serious horror. I just love it. But I also understand that a show that has two supermodel dudes on it who take their shirts off regularly is probably, I'm not their target audience.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, you were mentioning Marvel before. They're adapting some stuff now that has Lovecraftian elements. We'll see what goes with Doctor Strange. The Runaways had a Lovecraftian element definitely in it.
In the comic, you mean?
In the comic.
Yeah, I never read the comic, but you saying that makes me want to read
the TV series, supposedly, but I just can't stomach all that teen angst.
Yeah.
Basically, I liked it, but I would say it's Beverly Hills 90210 with superheroes.
Pass.
I don't think it's my jam either.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for being on the show today. Appreciate it.
Hey, can I mention one last thing, Mike?
No.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
Yes.
in this day and age of Kickstarters and waiting forever to get your Kickstarter stuff, one of the Kickstarters that I had put in money for maybe a year ago finally was delivered to my door, which was the second big issue of Case File Arkham, which I am holding up right now.
Oh yeah.
This is from 01 Publishing, and we know the editor, Kat Rocha. I'm not sure if she's been on or not. She'd make a good guess.
No, but yeah, I should ask her.
It's really great black and white art. It's a Lovecraftian private investigation story, and this thing is thick. It's not a comic book. It's a big, huge, multiple 100-page book. And of course, the bookmark then is a business card from Flynn Investigations, which I thought was clever. It's just really neat to finally get stuff that you have given money to. I was looking at my Kickstarter, whatever you call it, when you put money in, and literally I've got 6 of them out, some of them going back to 2015 that I'm still waiting on.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's awful.
They just haven't, they haven't completed the process of making it.
You mentioned Kat Rocha. Is that how you say her last name?
I believe that's how you say your name.
Rocha a minute ago.
Right.
And you bring up a good point. Something I wanted to say. There are a lot of good writers and editors, and entertainment people out there that I haven't yet asked on the show because I just haven't gotten to them yet, or it doesn't click in my mind like, oh yeah, Kat Rocha, or so on and so forth. Like last week, it clicked that I should ask Steve Resnick Tim to be on the show if he'd be willing. I'm just thinking, why didn't I think of that before? And of course I got a lot going on right now. But if anyone watching or listening has suggestions, please feel free to shoot me an email, lovecraftezine@gmail.com. We're booked up through May the 6th right now, but then I'll be looking for more guests to have on the show. And if you're a writer and you'd like to be on the show, and and you haven't been on the show, it's not necessarily because. It's probably not because I thought about you and said, nah, I don't want that guy on the show. That's not it at all. It's just me being absent-minded and not getting everybody. So,
that is a distinct possibility.
Yeah, there are a couple of people that probably fit in there, but not many. I don't think many. So, yeah. And then there are some people I'm going to ask on the show that'll be like, who are you? Well, Lovecraft, right. What? Lovecraft easy. What the hell's that? So, anyway, JF, good to see you again, man.
Hey, it was nice to drop by and see everyone again. I'm sorry I didn't have that much to contribute, but
thanks for being our Lovecraft booty call.
Anytime, boys.
And it was nice to hear from your cat. So
yeah, she had more to say than I did, unfortunately. I think she watches more Supernatural than I do, though, so that makes sense.
I thought it was an effective sound effect throughout the whole show.
Yeah,
it's weird that she's quiet now. I don't know. She's probably destroying something, so I'm gonna have to go look into that.
No, she's like, the podcast is about over. I can be quiet now.
Yeah, that's also probably correct.
So
all right, well, thanks for having me, guys. Always fun.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Next week, I believe we're going to have, it's Stephen Graham Jones, who's always really, really fun to talk to.
Yeah.
Kelly and Rick, as always, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it. And everybody listening, I appreciate you listening. Thanks for being part of this circle, this community, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks.